Okay, and part C question is always very long. It's always telling you grandmother's story. But you must know it is about shift of BP. So the question reads, okay, write down and explain the formula for UIP. So you get 1 mark, like what you did earlier on in question 1. Okay, so that's your 13 mark already. Then the question says, you must be very careful. Repeat the analysis of part B, but now assuming interest rate is determined by UIP. So much so that the exchange rate is expected to return to the level prior to the change in consumption. Okay, so don't copy. What the question is telling you is this. In part B, BP was a deficit, currency weakened. But now, the question says the currency is expected to return. So you apply the UIP. Exchange rate movement is positive. Interest rate gap should be negative. Alright, so that tells you local interest rates must drop. Okay, so if local interest rate drop with a horizontal BP, you have to deduce that IS or I star must drop. The BP has to shift down. By doing up to this point, you get 3 marks out of the 7. And I will watch my time. If it is 45 minutes, I will give up. I won't do anything. I'll stop there. I know I answered half the question. Ultimately, question is shift of BP, and I attempted to deduce where is the BP. I won't do the question at all. I don't want to kill myself because number 1, I do not know the answer. Number 2, okay, I know for third question, I only want to score 15 marks. So with 12 marks on top, 3 marks here, I know the focus of the question, I watch my time, I will cut it off. Right? So there must be some level of management. A lot of times students say, no, I die must finish all the 3 parts, and took 1 full hour, and yet still fail. And that's the worst thing. You attempted and yet you fail. Then that's a really poor choice of question. Okay, so in this case, look at part C. It's very difficult because you need to compare answer, which I leave it to you to go back to read through, and it's very difficult. And I know in exam, when I'm very stressed, you ask me to compare, I literally can't see a single thing. I can only shift curves. Then I just let it be. So with a maximum of 14 to 15 marks, I'm contented. Time's up, I move on. Okay, alright? And if you really go and ask those people who score A's for macro, they never finish the paper. They will tell you they only do 2.5 questions. It means the third question, they know they can only score A and B. They do not know what rubbish they wrote for part C one. They just write something and then time's up. Then they will go and finish the entire paper. Alright, that is then a correct strategy. Not every single question you want to do. Okay, alright, so with that we wrap up our discussion on tutorial 4. Okay, and that's why I don't do too many long questions for tutorial 4. Most of the analysis for part A and B, I did it in lectures already. All our fiscal, monetary policy and the shocks. Part C question is unpredictable. So what I did was in my handout, I gave you practice question, so that you can go and try out how many out of the 7 marks you can score. That is what I'm proposing. But please don't drop it. If you drop it, it's really too big a risk. Don't assume consumption question is easy. I rather you assume it's equally tough as open economy. So you prepare 4 topics for section B. You're supposed to do 3 out of 6. Okay? So we'll take a break. When we come back at 1:30, we're going to start